September the 24th, 1985. There's everything in the New Impressions art show. Drama, love, foreign landscapes, weather, aliens, scenes from childhood, unusual landscapes, New York cityscapes, religion, everything you can imagine. Let's start with the drama of opera star George Maldonado as Soraya in this wonderfully painted oil by Kitty Fabrico. Kitty enjoys biblical topics. Here is Lady by the Well. There's religion. Take a look at Phil Weiss's Jesus Saves, dramatically imposed against the blue skyline. There's religious observances, like this girl wearing her first communion dress by Kitty Fabrico. She looks beautiful with her bouquet and veil and crown, just like a bride. Little girls will remember this always. Heather Stark paints the Madonna and child, but in this case the Madonna is winking and the child is a cat. All you cat lovers, this is for you. Thanks, Heather. We'll see more works by Heather later on. She's a very young painter, just starting out. In fact, this is Heather, painted by her boyfriend, Michael Gilman. I'm sorry, not painted, it's a photograph. There's Heather's face in the mirror. So many young women put their makeup on in the car, they can relate to this. Michael lovingly made this picture for Heather, and Heather made one for him, which we'll see in a minute. This is the painting that Heather made of Michael. They both honored each other and their relationship in these artworks. Going back to Michael Gilman, a photographer, he painted this scene of a valley in Wales, black and white photograph. In fact, we have other faraway scenes in our show. We'll get to them in a moment. Annette Davis took a picture in Curacao, wonderful tropical building against a brilliant blue sky. Renee Bugler, watercolorist, paints this scene of the Capitol, Washington. And this is another watercolor of Hong Kong, also painted by Renee. Renee also painted this scene in Manhattan. Some of you might recognize this familiar site from The Intrepid, also in Manhattan, by Phil Weiss. Phil, a photographer, lives in Manhattan and uses Manhattan skyline in many of his photographs. Some of you might recognize this scene from the Rockefeller Center. Wonderful flags. Bye-bye. There's also a flag in Betty Wieland's work, Mr. Hope Then. As you can see, the American flag behind President Obama at the beginning of his presidency, and a little Matisse there too. Little diversion. Okay. Now we'll move on to the flowers in our show. There's many, many flowers, starting off with Annette Davis's close-up of a begonia, a painterly masterwork. Renee Bugler paints spring in this beautiful, delicate rendering. Renee's begonias are vibrant and alive. There's irises, beautiful flowers, more beautiful flowers. This watercolor is called Westchester Gardens. Let's move on to Kitty Fabrico's beautiful roses and grapes, and pink roses, and a spring bouquet, also by Kitty, in oil. Let's go back to Heather Stark, our young artist. Here she paints Krumlov in the Czech Republic, one of the few foreign places we left out from our previous selection. This is taken by Phil Weiss of what is left of a concentration camp in Germany. This may not be a foreign land, but it's an escape for the imagination, a wander of the mind. And there's more in the Kaleidoscope series by James Fryer, a photographer from Katona. There's children in the show. This is by Kitty Fabrico in oils. And animals too. These pictures were taken by Phil Weiss in New York City. This little decorated box by Rob Scott is reminiscent of Joseph Cornell's 3D work. And this is of New York City with a moonlight. This is another of Rob's boxes. This one has a more alien theme. This one's a little bit out of this world too. And this is the Twilight Zone. Do 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 do. In this portrait of her mother, Betty Whalen puts in all the ingredients of her mother's life, which always centered around the sewing machine.